Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wildcard Rewind, where this week the Wildcard rewinds the Wildcard Weekend. I got that in one take. I'm so pleased with myself. Let's hit the intro music. Let's get going.
I just wanna rewind to when we were young and hard. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
Yes, we are back after, wow, what an amazing weekend of games. I just love the playoffs. It's like the season is great and you just love all the action that comes at you. But then whenever it really condenses down into the playoffs and everyone's just watching, all eyes are on those few games. It's just like, it's a different feeling completely. So absolutely love this weekend. And we've got with us the full team. We got Paul and Hannah with us. I'm Mags. Paul, good to see you, mate. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing so good. It's so nice to chat to you guys on a Wednesday. It's normally Monday night, but we're hump day, and it's like, yes, the Rewind crew together, and you know what? What a weekend! What a weekend of football. After the first game, you thought we've peaked. We can't get any better than this, and just every game seemed to deliver something that was just like, oh my god, that was amazing. So I'm dead excited about this show. Dead excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hannah, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. As Paul said, I mean, there's absolutely nothing to complain about, is there? Usually, or most years, especially now, it's Super Wildcard Weekend with the 7 teams in. There's usually some sort of dud game where you're like, this team's clearly been overmatched. And actually, last year we got 2 of those. This year we didn't have a single one. It was awesome, and I can't wait to dig into all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get digging then, shall we? And we'll start off with you, Hannah. And you had the first game that kicked us off. It was the 49ers up against the Seahawks. Great game, right? You thought the 49ers were going to win, and of course they won because they're led by Tom Brady 2.0 and Brock Purdy. They won 41-23, and you thought Christian McCaffrey would have the most touchdowns for a 49ers running back. The Swiss Army, right? Him and Elijah Mitchell both shared that role with one. So, yes, he had the most, Christian McCaffrey. So, what did you think of that game with the Swiss Army knife and his pals?
So, like I said before, usually there's one that's a bit crappy and, they just blow out the other team. And I thought this was going to be the game. San Francisco went marching down the field right at the beginning, and Seattle had a couple of 3-and-outs. And I was like, here we are. This is the one. It's going to be a blowout. It's not going to be very exciting to talk about. But actually, Seattle really did make it a game in the first half. And going into halftime, they were actually leading 17-16.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy, he did take a little while to settle in, but you can't really blame him. He's a rookie playing in his first playoff game. I mean, at the beginning of the season, he probably never thought he would even get off the bench, never mind be playing in a playoff game. So I can kind of forgive him for being a bit kind of inaccurate and not really getting into it. And you could tell that San Fran just hadn't really hit the stride in the first half. And I think that gave Seattle the opportunity and a bit of confidence, really, to start doing a bit more. Obviously, DK had a pretty kind of big game, and that's what they needed from him. And Gino was looking pretty good first half, and I thought, this really is going to be quite a good game.
Yeah.
Of course, we know that the Seahawks kind of started to collapse a little bit in the second half, and we kind of knew all along that Seattle would need to be pretty much perfect in this game to have any chance of winning. As I say, they held up pretty well in the first half, but in the second half, you could just see San Fran kind of flicking the switch, getting into their groove and getting going. And as soon as you kind of see them kind of hit that switch and get going, they seem like this unstoppable force on offense and on defense. And I think, going into this playoffs, I was not totally convinced of them, but I actually think that they could be a sneaky one to go all the way, even with Brock Purdy at the helm, because all he needs to do is make enough plays to kind of keep them in it and look after the ball, and the rest of the team will do it for him. what do you guys reckon about San Fran kind of going into the rest of the playoffs? Feeling confident? Not so much?
After watching all of the games, in my head, I was like, these guys are the team to beat.
Mm.
They look the most impressive. I'm very happy as a Chiefs fan that if we're going to play them, it'll be in the Super Bowl. I'm very, very pleased to be on the other side of that draw because, yeah, they just look really effective everywhere. And, like, the defense is obviously the best in the league, probably, right? And then they just have so many weapons that'll kill you. And I heard, I don't know if it was on commentary or on a podcast I listened to, but someone described it as, Brock Purdy's almost like Kyle Shanahan has like a controller in his hand. And Brock Purdy's just really good at, doing exactly what Shanahan wants to do. And he seems to be just executing it flawlessly. And yeah, that team has just really hit its form. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, you're going to run out of words to, describe how amazing he is after a while, because he's come in and just, changed that team, taking them to another level. And people like Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel looked like the fastest man on planet Earth for his touchdown. Do you see that? Where it looked like he was running really, really fast, and then he doubled his speed. And they're a scary, scary team. It's a good time to be a 49ers fan because, that's not an aging team either. They're all coming up and peaking at the same time. It's a shame that Trey Lance will ruin it next year, whenever he's playing.
Do you know what? I don't want to be the guy that sits here and goes, "Oh, they're one of our divisional rivals. I think they're rubbish." But
That's what you're going to do.
I don't think they're rubbish, but I think their test is this week. I think the Cowboys are a fairly good team in this playoff, and I'm not going to ruin my prediction for later, but I don't think 49ers are getting past the next round, if I'm honest. I think Laxative is gonna have a few words with Brock Purdy, and he's already taken one Mr. Irrelevant out. He's going to take the other one out, I honestly like what Brock Purdy's done this year, and I think he's been really, really good, and he's stepped into that role well. But I do think there is an end in sight for him. How many times have we ever seen somebody picked that late in the draft that have been an effective QB?
I mean, the greatest quarterback of all time.
But how many times?
I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? In that many years, we've seen it once, and everyone's talking about Brock Purdy as if he's some kind of magician who is going to be phenomenal for the next 20 years. Everyone's like, "Oh, Brock Purdy's amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing." I think the team is amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's kind of like giving him stabilizers. You know what I mean? Any kid can ride a bike with stabilizers. If that team is built for any QB, so it's difficult. I think they're gonna come to a point where you go, "Yeah, that's it. The dream has ended." Don't get me wrong. There is a path for them to get there, but are they going to take out? Are they going to take out the Cowboys in this round and potentially the Eagles in the next round? You've got two really, really good teams to come across there. The Seahawks, you can't knock them for what they've done this year. You really can't. They've been really good. And actually, I think in the first half, they were playing like a team that had no pressure. They looked like they were having fun. They looked like they were just going, "Yeah, let's do whatever we want to do. It's fine." And then I think when they got the lead at halftime, there was a bit of a, "Right, guys, we need to be, we need to do this. We need, we can win this," and stuff like that. And I think that's when the 49ers then at halftime have gone, "Look, guys, you're losing this. If you don't turn this on now, we're going home. We're out of this." So I think the mentality changed. It had gone from the Seahawks having nothing to lose and the 49ers having it all to lose to the 49ers coming out in the second half behind going, "Well, we've got nothing to lose now. We've got to go for this."
Yeah.
And the Seahawks had everything to lose. So I think the mentality changed. And the 49ers stepped up. But I think there's a big difference between the Seahawks and the Cowboys, if I'm honest. So it's going to be an interesting game next week.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you on the Brock Purdy thing, Paul. Like, I don't think he would look half as good without Kyle Shanahan and the rest of the team around him. I think if he was on any other team, I don't think we'd be talking about him like we are. But I also don't think he needs to be any kind of superstar to get this team further in the playoffs, because all he needs to do is follow the instructions in front of him. And if he does that and he gets the ball to the playmakers, they will do the rest. That's literally all he needs to do, is look after the ball and get it to the playmakers. And Kyle Shanahan so far has been scheming it so well that he can do that quite easily. And I think if he manages to hold his nerve, then I think the sky's the limit for this team this season based on who is around him. The big question is, like you say, can he hold his nerve? Will the kind of event become too big for him? And then he starts to not look after the ball, and that's where they're going to get in trouble. But I think, potentially with how good this defense is, he doesn't need to do a lot to push them forward, personally, what I think. Now, obviously, the Cowboys, as we'll discuss later, played extremely well this week. So maybe, it might be more difficult than I'm kind of making it out. I think it will depend on the day, but I don't necessarily think he needs to be any kind of superstar to keep them rolling in these playoffs. I think there's enough around him for them to do the work, and he just needs to deliver the ball where it needs to go, and that's it. So we'll see. Like you say, just quickly on the Seahawks before we move on, I think they've done an awesome job this season. Like we were talking about them being in the bottom half or bottom kind of 5 teams in the league this season and saying they're going to be totally terrible. It's going to be a complete joke. And they weren't at all. So I think if you're a Seahawks fan, you've got to be really happy with how things went. Of course,
that's a young team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're only going to get better, aren't they?
Yeah.
The more they bring in, that defense really, is probably letting them down the most. So the more kind of pieces they bring in, I think the better they're going to become. So, yes, you get in the playoffs and you want to do well and you want to go further, but I think, you've got to be happy with where you got this season.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Looking forward to next week anyway and seeing what the Niners can do. Paul, if you're going to guess the Cowboys, I'm going to say the Niners are going to win. Because that's what usually happens when you make a prediction, right?
Before we move on, I just want to say, do you know the teams that Brock Purdy's played against? So far he's played against Miami, Tampa, Seattle, Washington, Las Vegas, Arizona, and Seattle again. All of a sudden they're coming up against a really top tier defense this week, and I think this is a big test for him. I'm looking at them teams, and I'm not seeing a top tier defense that he's come up against yet.
Yeah,
and this is the big stage now, and you're probably coming up against the best defense you played against.
Definitely.
But I'm also going to shock you with one of my other predictions that you're going to predict, Tanner. So you may hate me later. Don't worry.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm used to it, Paul. It's fine. Come on, Paul. Let's talk about your game anyway. So you had the Dolphins versus the Bills. Now, again, this is another one that I thought was going to be a blowout. But the Bills did actually finally manage to get the win, but only 34-31. So your prediction was correct of the Bills winning. And you predicted that Tyreek Hill would have the most yards at wide receiver. But I'm afraid that was incorrect. And Diggs, in fact, had the most with 114 yards. So 1 out of 2, that's pretty good for you, Paul. You got to be happy.
If I just get a 1, I'm happy, to be honest. But no, you guys probably felt the same as me with this game. I think the Bills started off, and I was just watching it going, the Bills are just going to walk this.
Yeah.
They're just going to walk this. I've watched the highlights again today, and I still don't know what happened to the Bills. I don't know if they went to sleep or what. They just didn't look great. They didn't look great. There was one moment that I seen where the Bills were I think they were like 2nd and 8 or something, and they run the ball and they got the first down, and then they run the ball again, got another 3 yards, and then went, oh, let's pass it, incomplete, pass it, incomplete, and you were just like, the passing game's not working for you as well as the running game at the moment. Why are you not going to the run game? The run game's effective, and they were just, I don't know, they looked nervous. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but they looked. Josh Allen didn't look settled. He didn't, you know what I mean? Even when he did look settled, all of a sudden, Miami came back into the game, and I was just sitting there thinking, the Bills are going to blow this. They're going to blow this. This is, and you know, this is looking into next week. This worries me that for them next week, like, you know what I mean? You play a team like that, and somebody will punish you. The other teams will punish you. I think Skyler was never going to punish the Bills like the way that I think Joe Burrow can. You know, I'm interested to see, but I have to talk about the Dolphins team and say how they are exciting to watch. Okay, the Dolphins are exciting to watch. You know, with Tua, they look a completely different level.
Yeah,
I really hope that he's back next year. Mike McDaniel is a phenomenal coach. You know what I mean? I think he makes some silly mistakes sometimes, but I'm putting that down to experience. I think in a couple of years' time, I think he'll be somebody that everyone wants as their head coach. You know what I mean? A bit like Andy Reid, is it? But I tell you one thing, I'm looking forward to the off season where we do actually dig into this Dolphins team a lot more because they're just exciting all over the park, and I'm excited to see what they do in the draft and if they can sort out some little gaps that we will mention. But the Bills, let's go back to the Bills. And like I said, I don't think they look comfortable. I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know if what happened in week 17 is still in the back of their mind, or I don't know. They just don't. You know, we spoke about in the off season last year how the Bills are the team to watch, and we've mentioned many a times on how they don't look like that formidable number one overall team that's going to dominate anyone. They look like they can be scored against. They look like a team that can, on their day, beat anyone, but they also look like a team that could lose to anyone. And we've seen that this year. You know, they've lost to the Jets, they've lost to the Dolphins. Just to mention, they're beatable. So I'm a little bit worried for the Bills going into next week. And another thing that I will mention is, did you guys see that hit on Skyler that was off the field that they didn't even flag or anything like that? You know?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that was against Josh Allen? Do you think the flags would have been flying then if that was against Josh Allen?
We could have even seen my favorite thing in the NFL, one of the referees just chucking the hat in the air, right?
But no, what did you guys make of this one? Did you guys enjoy this game as much as I did?
Hannah, I'll go to you first.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was great fun. Again, this is another one where you think, oh, it's going to be a blowout. You know, they haven't got to... and they made a game of it. I actually thought that Dolphins defense really stepped up, at the weekend. I think, to be honest, that's, for me, probably been their weak, part this whole season. That offense with Tua has been kind of explosive and mind-blowing and brilliant to watch, but the D's just not quite kept up. But they were partially the reason why they managed to hang in this game at the weekend. So I thought they did pretty well. I agree with you on the Bills. Like, they've been weird this season because obviously they came flying out the gates. First few games, you were like, wow, this team is unstoppable. It looks amazing. They're going up and down the field on everyone. They're stopping everyone on defense. It's just looking awesome. And then since then, they've been very kind of up and down, and they seem to be, you kind of never know what Bills are going to come out each week. And I think Josh Allen is probably the main kind of part of that. He either comes out and throws 2 interceptions at the goal line, and he's just kind of a bit erratic with his throws, being quite dangerous with the ball, or he's throwing these perfect dimes over everyone's head to Isaiah McKenzie or whoever running down the field and getting these amazing kind of long TDs, and there's kind of nothing really in between. And in some games you'll get both of him. You'll see these amazing things, and then he'll do really stupid things, and he just doesn't seem to have kind of settled into a full rhythm. And I do think this is concerning for them going forward. Now, whether they'll get stopped this week or not, I don't know. But I did predict them to go to the Super Bowl, but I'm not wholly convinced now. I think one of these teams, whether it be the Bengals or the Chiefs or the Jags, are going to stop them. I don't think they're going to get out of the AFC this year. And I do think that Von Miller loss is a massive thing for them, because he has amazing, playoff experience, and I think that would really help this team, and especially after what they've been through more recently. And I think it's a real shame that they are missing him. So I do have my concerns. I think they could pull it together at least this week, but I'm not convinced they're going to make it out of the AFC anymore, like I kind of was earlier in the season. What do you reckon, Mags? Obviously, the Bills are going to be a big competitor potentially to the Chiefs.
Yeah. It's weird. We spoke about a few weeks ago, during the 90s, obviously people sort of coined the Bills. What does the Bills stand for? It's boy, I love losing Super Bowls, because they lost all those Super Bowls in a row. And it's kind of we'll talk about another team where I also think this is true in a minute, but it's almost weirdly in their DNA to always be the bridesmaid, right? And it's they never quite get there. And even though it's there's no one even in the same organization as there was in 1991 and whenever they lost those Super Bowls, probably, but it's still in the bones of the stadium, and in the fans remember, and that feeling of almost making it all those times is still there somewhere. And I wonder if that's what's happening. The more they creep forward and get closer to the Super Bowl, that kind of weight of history is kind of coming back onto them, and making them tense up and make silly mistakes. And they're maybe not. I think they played better whenever it was Josh Allen coming back and having this breakout season. Then they looked amazing because no one expected it. I'm not sure they're a team that cope well with the tag of being favorites, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, there's something not quite there for. Also, they don't have any running backs that are any good. And they don't really have. They got one receiver who's good. They don't have a good tight end. Their offensive line's okay. They've got an elite quarterback, but the rest of that team, actually, when you break it down and look at it, it's not great.
It is ultimately all on Josh Allen, isn't it? And I think if he plays well and he gets the ball, to Diggs running down a seam and, whatever, then I think they've got a great chance of winning. If he does stupid things, then, that's when they lose ultimately.
That's what we said,
They don't have anyone to carry him. It's him carrying everyone else. And if he plays crap, they all go down. And that's kind of, I think, ultimately what this team is this year.
Agreed.
Do you remember when the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey? The Bills were rumoured to be getting him. Can you imagine that team with the Swiss Army knife?
Oh, they didn't have the... I think a lot of people said that they don't. I don't know why they don't have the cap space, but it didn't have the cap space. I don't know who they're paying.
Von Miller an absolutely ridiculous
That's who it is. Von Miller, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying about they don't actually have a decent running back there, and but no, let's get on to our next game, Mags. This was one of my favourite games of the weekend, and I think if we had a game of the week, this definitely would have been in contention. Your first game was the Jags versus the Chargers. As you would have known if you're a follower of the Twitter, that Mags had control of it the other day, clipping up his moment where he said the Jags were going to win this, bragging. You predicted a Jags win, which was correct at 31-30. And you also predicted Etienne with more rushing yards than Eckler. Etienne had 109, Eckler had 35. So you got that one right. So 2 for 2. Go on then, Mags. Let's see what you thought of this one.
So I'll correct you almost slightly, right? Because I did predict a Jags win, but I actually, more than predicting a Jags win, I thought the Chargers were going to lose. I don't think it mattered who they played. The Chargers, just kind of what we talked about with the Bills. The Chargers I said it last week, they just choke. They find a way to choke. They've got all of these great weapons and great players. Unlike the Bills, the Chargers maybe on paper have a better team, right? But they always find a way to choke and throw it away. There is an inherent, I don't know if anyone follows, the Premier League, but if they do, there's an inherent Spursiness about the Chargers, right? They have all the gear and no idea. Like, it's just, they almost get there and they just, for whatever reason, it all blows up in their face. It's not even like the Bills where they're always the bridesmaid. It's like they always end up with egg in their face instead. It's like it's embarrassing almost at times. So what was the score at halftime? 27-7. They were 27-0 up at one stage. One of the worst, almost an historically bad half, where you had Trevor Lawrence throwing an interception on his first throw to Tranquil. And then you had 4 interceptions by the end of the first half. Asante Samuel, running riot. You had a punt where Jags player didn't even know where he was, Claybrooks. The punt goes up in the air. He's looking the wrong way. It hits him off the helmet, and the Chargers get first and goal. How do you lose that game where you have opposition players getting lost and balls pinging off their helmets? And it was like watching a high school team play a professional team. And then the Chargers still managed to lose that game. Is when it got back to 30-20, fair play to the Jags fans. They absolutely, raised the roof on that stadium. And it was definitely loud. And the second it became 30-20, I was like, oh, they're like, the Chargers are going to crumble here. They're going to lose this. And then there was like an easy field goal at 30-20. That was missed. I was like, here we go. I was like, this is I even typed it in my notes. I was like, Spursiness. It's not a word, but I typed it. I was like, this is what's going to happen. It was just, you could see it. And then we had my rewind moment of the week, which we'll get to a bit later. That was absolutely brilliant. And yeah, the Jags caught them and beat him. And I loved it. I do feel sorry for Justin Herbert, though. I love Justin Herbert. I've even got, look, it's just, there he is. He's sitting right behind me. He goes second in the NFL in passing yards this year, and nobody's talking about it. It's so sad. And his head coach is rubbish, and I hope he gets fired, and I hope he gets Sean Payton, and he has a nice career with Sean Payton. But not nice enough to beat the Chiefs, but pretty nice. But yeah, really, really pleased for the Jags. Trevor Lawrence, right? This Jags team was the undisputed worst team in the NFL for 2 years straight, with one of the worst coaches you could imagine for one of those years. The second Trevor Lawrence gets a good coach, and he gets this team from the worst team in the NFL to not only the playoffs, but winning playoff games. The hype is real on Trevor Lawrence. This guy is here to stay. What an amazing quarterback. I cannot wait to see what he does next year with Calvin Ridley and any other people that get in the draft. Yeah, really like the Jags. Love what the organization is doing. Love Trevor Lawrence. And yeah, the Chargers just, yeah, I'm not shocked that they lost at all. What did you guys think of that game? Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, really it was the Chargers that lost it rather than the Jags winning it, to be fair. Like, literally, you were so kind of ahead in that game. All you really need to do was keep possession of the ball and, get a field goal or two, and you've pretty much got it in the bag. And they just could not run the ball, like, at all. So I think in the second half, they ran the ball something like 6 times. And, like, you're up 27-7. So really, surely your thoughts should be, let's run the ball and, run down the clock. But the problem was the 6 times that they did try and actually run it, they got nowhere. And I think in most cases they got actually negative yardage. So it wasn't paying off for them. So instead of trying and just carrying on, they were like, right, no, we're just going to go back and throw it. And then obviously giving it back to the Jags. And off they go down the field. Fair play to Trevor Lawrence. Like, when you throw 4 interceptions, like, you must feel like total crap.
Yeah.
Like, most other quarterbacks would probably just fold and be like, meh, this isn't my day. I can't do it. Today it's not going well, and this is it. We've lost it. But he didn't. He stuck with it. He kept, getting the ball out to his receivers. And they ultimately came back to win it. So good on him. Like, I really love the story. I am not a massive Chargers fan. This sounds mean, doesn't it? So I wasn't particularly upset that they lost. I do like Justin Herbert, but the fact that everybody always says, oh, he's amazing, and they try and say that he's better than Joe Burrow, gets me very upset. So I totally appreciate.
I'm covering Justin's ears.
I totally appreciate he's got mad skills and his arm's amazing, but Joe Burrow, to me personally, was the best quarterback in that draft class, and I'll hear nothing otherwise. So I always have like a little bit of for Justin Herbert. So I wasn't massively gutted that he didn't get through, I have to be honest. Go on, Paul, I'll let you take over before I get on more of a rant.
All I heard there, Mags, I don't know if it was you, was, oh, Joe Burrow's the best. I'm a massive homer, That's all I heard then.
Come on, Paul, your team were terrible all year and still you wouldn't move off being a homer. So I think I'm allowed to, right?
I agree, but that's all I heard. I heard you criticize the Chargers because Justin Herbert's there and people say he's the best in that draft class, I can't knock him for it. I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard. I won't say too much because you guys have covered this game beautifully. But one thing I will say is it's the same as the 49ers Seahawks for me. I think the mentality changed. I think the Jags didn't want to lose in that first half and everything went wrong for them. In the second half, it was, we've got nothing to lose now.
Uh-huh.
We're out of this. Where the Chargers in the second half had, we can't lose this game. The only other thing I will mention is I did pause it at one point in the second half on Justin Herbert's face to make sure it was him and not Matt Ryan that was that was at the quarterback, because I thought there's only one person that can throw away a lead like this, and it's Matt Ryan,
Yeah.
So I did have to check just to make sure that it wasn't Matt Ryan, But yeah.
Oh, he's not taken one of Matt Ryan's records away from him, has he? I haven't even thought of that.
Not that I've seen. Not that I've seen.
Good. As long as Matt Ryan still has all of the comeback records.
Yeah, Matt Ryan still got them all. Don't worry.
One more thing I just want to say about the Chargers. It was Brandon Staley's stupidity that meant that Mike Williams couldn't play in that game. And I think potentially having Mike Williams might have meant that they would have won that. So I think he keeps his job, but I think it's him. He's the reason that they lost ultimately.
Yeah, I agree. So let's have a look at. We talked about Joe Burrow, but so let's go back to Joey B, will we? And Bengals up against the Ravens. Hannah, you were a bit worried about this one last week, but not to worry because the Bengals beat the depleted Ravens 24-17. You thought Joe Burrow would throw for over 28.5 completions. He only needed 23 though, so didn't quite get that one right. What did you think of this game? Did you have reason to be worried, or were you actually happy enough?
No, well, I think I had reason to be worried, and we got away with it there, I have to say. It was a typical AFC North slugfest, wasn't it? And I'm always nervous when we play the Ravens because their play style just doesn't always suit the way we play. And this year they had been getting the better of us. So I was quite nervous, even with Lamar out. I think, and I think the rest of the world probably thinks too, that the Ravens may well have won if Lamar had been there and 100%, but we'll never know that. So, we can't say. And as I say, to be fair to the Ravens, they had a really good game plan. They went there, they ground and pound. That's what they kind of do. That's their thing. Limit Tyler Huntley, although he did make a few errors, as we will discuss later. Thankfully for us, the defense did bail us out, and we'll discuss that in the rewind moment, won't we, Paul? But so it meant that
discuss my rewind moment.
We did manage to cling on to that lead, but literally at that moment when we got that pick, we were about to go down 7, and we ended up going up 7. So it's like a 14-point swing, and it really had a massive effect on that game. I think if we had not got that, I am fairly confident that we would have lost. So we were really, really lucky there. And obviously we've got loads of O-line injuries, which is devastating, really. Like last year, our O-line was terrible, and we're back to actually even worse now. And although the O-line was terrible last year, we managed to overcome it and get to the Super Bowl. They had played together the whole season. This season, we played a okay O-line, and now we're missing 3 players. So we've got crap players and they've not played together, and that makes me really, really nervous, because Ted Karras, our centre, has been great for us this year, but he's the only really kind of reasonable player on the O-line, and he can't carry us on his own. So that does make me really nervous there. But you never know. Joey B's managed to overcome it in the past. He's getting that ball out super quick. I don't know if you saw, as soon as our left tackle went out, he literally was getting the ball out as soon as he hit that drop, and it was gone. And I think he's going to have to do that against the Bills to have any chance of us winning that. Obviously, the Ravens, for them, I think it will be a disappointing end to the season. Of course, they're always wanting to compete and get to the Super Bowl. Lamar being out for so many games didn't help them. Tyler Huntley was okay, but obviously he's never going to get them to the Super Bowl. And the Ravens are going to be such a massive talking point, this off season, because with everything going on with Lamar, I think it's clear now that there's discontent on both sides here. I think that the team, like the office, and I think also the head coach, not particularly happy with him, and I think he feels exactly the same about them. And I just don't know, even if the money's right, whether they'll manage to come to like an amicable agreement, working relationship. And I do wonder whether he's out of there this off season. I really wouldn't be surprised at this stage if he's gone. And then what the hell are they going to do? Because they're basically built to be around, that whole offense was built for him. So I think it's going to be a massive change for them to have to move away from him. So I'm really excited to talk about that in the off season. Anyway, sorry, I've been rambling on because of course it's my Bengals. Go on, Paul, tell me what you thought of this smashing game.
I thought it was exactly what you said before we came on the show. It's just, in that division or that conference, it's just a slugfest, isn't it? Every time, every game. It's never a big shootout or anything like that. It's always just nitty gritty, and it's like both teams were down and just hitting on each other really hard. It just felt like a massive battle on both sides, and I suppose your O-line is the victim of that battle that you've had. Like, you know what I mean? It was a really, really like tough game, like a good old fashioned game of rugby. That was, 2 really strong teams just hitting each other hard all day. And, I think there was a little bit of luck in my rewind moment. You know what I mean? I think that was there was a little bit of luck with my rewind. But no, I think the Bengals are the deserving team to go through. I think the Ravens, without that defense, they're nothing really, and you know, Tyler Huntley, yeah, he's done okay, but you know, I think they've a bit like any team with a backup QB in. I think they get to the point where they go, this is it, this is the end of your line, you know. I agree with you in a sense that the Ravens are going to be the talking point this off season. I think they're really going to take over. They, you know, between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and Tom Brady retiring and Lamar Jackson's contract, I don't think we'll hear anything else this off season, to be honest. It'll just be them three talking points. But no, it was a good game. I did enjoy it. Mags, did you have anything to say on this one?
Yeah, I love really good game to watch, and we'll get to the best one of it soon. I'm done, you know, discounting the Bengals or writing off the Bengals. They're too dangerous to do that. They've got too many weapons. That O-line might be banged up, but as long as they've got Burrow and Chase and Higgins and Mixon on the field, they've got a chance to beat anybody. So I'm not going to say too much against the Bengals because she might well end up playing them and losing to them for the fourth time in a row. So I'm going to not say too much. I will say, if I was Lamar Jackson, I'd be seriously pissed off they just paid Roquan Smith $50 million. I'd be very pissed off about that because they ain't paying him anything yet. So you're right. This offseason is going to be really interesting to see where Lamar Jackson ends up. Is it in Baltimore or is he going to be, you know, a New York Jet or something like that? Right, that could be interesting.
Oh, it's me, Paul. I was too busy thinking about
Lamar and Green.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking, I think that would be really terrible for Garrett Wilson, but you never know. Might be great. I just think Lamar, he's all right. He's an all right passer, but his legs are his talent, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, Paul, your second game, Giants versus the Vikings. Now, this was a classic. I really enjoyed this one. And you predicted correctly that the Giants would win 31-24. And the Giants would have the most sacks, but unfortunately that was incorrect because it was the Vikings. But unfortunately they still couldn't win the game. Go on, Paul, tell me all about it because I loved it.
Yeah.
See, you'd have thought that my good friend Mags would have clipped up where I said the Giants were going to win. Yeah. And put that out on the Twitter, but he was all about bragging and blowing his own trumpet, you know. But no, do you know what? This was one of those games where I've said it all season. You give the best player on your team the ball, you're going to win a game. So they kept giving it to Saquon Barkley, and Saquon Barkley, his first touchdown, I didn't even see the hole, even with the camera behind. You can't even see the hole that he runs through, but somehow he goes, I'm going through there, bam, straight through. That was it. Straight in for a touchdown. And I was like, oh, this guy, even when I think, is he losing a step? You just watch him and he's like, no, he's definitely not losing a step. What the Giants offense actually looked decent. You know what I mean? They looked like they were moving the ball well. They looked like they were doing everything quite well. And I was like, this is quite strange, like, you know, seeing the Giants actually look competent on the offensive side of the ball. One person I have to mention for you, Mags, is Daniel Bellinger. You were all about him in the off season.
Yep.
He was the guy that you were saying people should draft in rookie drafts in fantasy, and you know he scored a touchdown. So it wasn't impressive. It was just I felt like mentioning it because I wanted to big you up, Mags. You know,
he's very good. He's done even better than even I thought. I was high prospect on him, and he obviously had that horrible eye injury, but yeah, he's a very good player.
Yeah, he is. But let's go to the other side of the ball. This is now. So I'm going to take a moment. Just all Vikings fans, please stop blaming Kirk Cousins for this loss. Okay? Now, yes, that 4th and 8, and he threw a 3-yard pass was not the best, but he went through his reads, nothing was available, and he took the option which he thought was best at that moment. It didn't pay off, okay? So stop blaming him. Kirk Cousins this season, yeah, got you to the playoffs by throwing 4,547 yards and 29 touchdowns. In this game, he went for 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, and rushed for a touchdown. And yet, there are people that are going, it was Kirk Cousins' fault. We need him out this season. And I'm going, are you deluded? You know what I mean? Kirk Cousins, that play was not a great play, but he didn't lose this game for you. This game was lost in a 60-minute game, not in that last play. You know what I mean? And I'm just sick of seeing so much on Twitter about, oh, it's Kirk Cousins, get him out of our club and everything like this. It's awful, absolutely awful. The guy has been really good for you this season. He's, you know, what did they finish on? 12 wins or something like that. He was 11 and 1 on one game or one score games and stuff like that. You know, he's had a phenomenal season, and yet people are still like, oh, we need him out. And I'm just like, please stop blaming him. So that was my rant. You know, we all like a rant. But also, I will say this again: TJ Hawkinson is the trade of the season. I will wait till somebody tells me otherwise. The guy is incredible. I will, by the time we get to the offseason when we talk about the Vikings, I will find out his stats for what he's done since he's been at the Vikings, because he's been incredible, absolutely incredible. But does anyone else have a say on the Giants versus the Vikings? Hannah, let's go to you.
No, I was just going to say that I think I'd heard the other day that since he's been traded, he was like second in targets for the tight end position, only behind Kelsey. And I think he had about 80 odd, and the next closest tight end was like 50 or something. So like he has really been utilised since he's gone there. I would say CMC probably is the trade of the season, but Hawkinson's close second for sure. I mean, look, I think it's so impressive that the Giants have done what they've done in this game, you know, with the personnel that they've got. I mean, realistically, it's Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, and a load of no names on offense. You know,
Isaiah Hodgins, legend.
And I was only on the team from the 2nd of November, I think it was. Like, it's mental what they're doing. Like, it's hats off to them. Really, really brilliant. I think, unfortunately, the Vikings D actually let them down in this game. They just were all over the place. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought Daniel Jones played a blinder. He played so well. And it was great. Look, I think they're probably going to fall at the next hurdle, but what an awesome story.
Max?
No, guys, I think you've absolutely nailed it. I don't have anything to add at all, actually, which is maybe a first for the show.
Definitely.
Yes!
You did it!
18 weeks, and it's the playoffs that we've silenced him. Woohoo!
It's because I want to get talking. I want to get talking about the next game, Paul. If you introduce me, tell us what happened.
No, this is the first time he's been quiet, and this is what the first time that the Chiefs haven't been playing. So
That's
you know
true.
what I mean. You know what I mean.
Makes sense now.
But yeah, Max, let's get to your next game, or the last game of the wildcard playoffs, which was the Cowboys versus the Bucks. You predicted a Cowboys win, which they did, 31-14. And you also predicted the Cowboys would have the most sacks, which again was correct. They had 2 and the Bucks had 1. So go on.
So, I mean, 4-4. God, I love. By the way, can we also take a moment to recognize that we all predicted the winners of the game? We got everything right. We were 6 for 6 on who would win in the wildcard weekend. So absolutely brilliant work as a team. Fantastic. In terms of this game, I don't have too much to say. Obviously, I mean, the Cowboys absolutely just walloped the Buccaneers, as most people kind of expected. But I will say, obviously, all year I've been giving Tom Brady grief about saying he's washed and saying he's not great and saying he's done. Do you know that if this is his last game, he threw more passes in this game than he's ever thrown in his career? 66 pass attempts, which is a career high. So he went out, on his shield. He did everything he could. He was pump faking for his life. He was running. He was trying everything. I think the rest of the team let him down. I think obviously they were a bit banged up as well. So this one, unlike some others this year, this one I don't think is on Brady. Not a lot of running after the catch happening. You know, he did as much as he could, but the Cowboys were always going to win this game, I think. And yeah, if this is Tom Brady's last game, what an absolute legend. Undeniably, like no argument about it, the greatest player to ever play. So yeah, if it is the last of Tom Brady, then what a way to go out with career high in throws and going out in the playoffs and breaking that streak. Have you seen that streak online where it was like lost a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, lost a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl? Every second year he won the Super Bowl for the last like decade or something stupid. So that streak finally ends, and yeah, respect to Tom Brady, but I think that might be the end. Do you think that's it for Tom Brady, guys? No, Hannah.
No, I
thinks
don't.
it.
I don't. He's had a divorce now. The reason she divorced him is because he wouldn't stop playing football. What's the point of retiring now? I reckon he wants one last swan song. I do. I really do. Somewhere where he can get on the same page, because this year he was not on the same page with anyone.
Yeah.
I think he'll be, a bit more time removed from his divorce. I mean, it was just a complete disaster this whole year, wasn't it? And I think he had way too much going on. And I just think he wants to go somewhere where he can be the hero. To be honest, I do actually think San Fran would really suit him, because actually he doesn't have to do a lot. He just has to deliver the ball to the playmakers, like we've been saying about Brock Purdy. He doesn't want to do a lot now in his old age, but he could do just enough to let that team do the rest for him and win another ring.
Yeah, go back up Brock Purdy, right? Let's have. Oh, sorry, Paul. Go on.
So, I have been praying for Tom Brady's retirement for the last 5 years, and every year that we go, he's going to retire now. Everyone goes, no, I think he'll come back for one more year, and here we are. He's now 50 something. Is he 55, 60 something? You know what I mean? He's old, okay?
Yeah,
and he still manages to somehow come back, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm coming back, I'm going to do this, and I'm done with it. So I hope he goes. Okay, I hope he retires. I hope he goes, and good riddance to him. I'm sick of going out on Super Bowl night, having drinks with my mates, and watching bloody Tom Brady stand there and lift a trophy. I'm sick of it. See the Tom Brady and the bloody Chiefs. I just want to go 1 year, but I don't see either of them.
It won't be happening this year. Don't worry. Tom Brady's not going to be lifting anything apart from. No, I won't actually say that. I was going to make a very bad joke. So next up, we've got our prediction scoreboard. I was going to set alimony checks, all right. Prediction scoreboard. I'm at the top with 4 out of 4 for this week. Hannah, you're in second place with 3 out of 4, and Paul got the 2 games right, but the little add-ons didn't quite get there, unfortunately. So we're going to fire into the most controversial topic of the week. It's the hit rewind moment. Now,
I'll start, Mags.
I was going to say we all had we all had the same hit rewind moment. I did the nice thing and left the Bengals rewind moment, which we all want. I did not put that. I put Joey Bosa throwing his helmet on the ground and then Brandon Staley picking it up and Joey Bosa throwing it on the ground again, because that was hilarious. And I thought I would leave Hannah to talk about the Bengals one, but Paul, you're having none of it. I hear this. There's been, for folks that cannot see, the show sheet is a copy and paste mess of who's going to speak first. Hannah, I think as the Bengals fan, you should definitely get to speak about this. So on you go.
Thanks, Mags. Unfortunately, Paul's not quite as chivalrous and wanted to steal the limelight from a Bengals fan. I mean, come on now, Paul. Just not nice. Wait till some sort of Arizona hit rewind moment. Oh, we might be waiting a few years, right? Anyway, so obviously, my hit rewind moment of the week is the fumble in the jungle. Sam Hubbard, 98-yard pick 6 against the Ravens. I mean, come on. I mean, how can it not be the rewind moment of the week? This is like going to go down in Bengals history forever because it saved our bacon. I I have to give credit to Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt because they were the guys that managed to tip the ball and knock it into Hubbard's hands. And well done, Hubbard, for managing to run all that way, because I'm pretty sure he's probably not run that far for about 10 years. So we managed to make it. I did see that one of them did push Mark Andrews in the back. So I think technically they probably should have been flagged for that, but we won't mention it again. We're going to remember this literally forever. It was amazing. We're kind of moving on because of that moment. Go on, Paul. Anything else to add about it? Because I know you wanted to say it, really.
Nope.
No comment.
Oh, he's in a bad mood now.
Well.
You stole it from me. You stole it. Okay. My hit rewind moment was Daniel Jones handing off Patrick Peterson on his rushing moment like he was bloody Derrick Henry. I had a backup.
Well done. That was good. That was a good one. I did enjoy that.
That was pretty cool. I seen someone on Twitter being like, "Is this all it takes to get impressed?" I was like, "Yeah, that's really cool." Like, I'm impressed. Yeah. Right. Let's move on to our predictions for next week in our divisional round. A little bit different because there's only four games to look at. So we're going to look at 3 games, give each other predictions, and then we're going to all give ourselves a prediction for the last game. So we're going to start off, Paul. We're going to go with you. You've got the Cowboys against the 49ers. We already know who you said is going to win, but tell me what else. Do you think Nick Bosa or Micah Parsons is going to get more tackles? And do you think Brock Purdy is going to throw an interception or not?
So I'm going Cowboys win.
Yep.
I'm going Bosa over Parsons.
Woo!
I know, mad, right? And I do think that Brock Purdy's going to throw an interception.
Wow.
So I'm going to go for the over with that. Hannah, you've got your Bengals versus the Bills. The Bills. Who wins? Which team scores a touchdown first? And who has more receiving yards, Stephon Diggs or Jamar Chase?
So I'm going to go against like every single like cell in my body, because obviously I want to say the Bengals, but I am like the eternal pessimist. So last season, every playoff game that we played, I was like, we're going to lose this, we're going to lose this, we're going to lose this. And we managed to win. So I'm like, right, I'm going to keep going on this track, because if I say we're going to lose, then maybe we will win. I think it's a real uphill battle, to be honest, this week. So I'm going to say the Bills are going to win. But I am going to say that we'll score the first TD. But I do think that Diggs ultimately, if the Bills are going to win, probably is going to have more receiving yards than Chase. I hope to be wrong on the majority of these picks this week, but we'll see. So, Mags, you get to watch your Chiefs back in action, and they're going to play the Jags this week. So tell me who wins. I don't really know why I'm asking. Who has the most rushing yards, Trevor Lawrence or Patrick Mahomes? And will Chris Jones have over or under 1.5 sacks?
So yeah, I'm the eternal optimist, right? So I'm definitely going for the Chiefs to win this game. Although I think the Jags will play well. I think Mahomes will end up with more rushing yards. Could be one where he gets those crucial first downs. I'm going to say Chris Jones has under the 1.5 sacks, because I think they'll have their eye out for Chris Jones. It could be a Frank Clark game, so look out for him there. And now we've got the Giants against the Eagles. So this is for both of you, all right? We'll go to you first, Paul. Who's going to win? And is the rushing yards for both teams combined over or under 290.5?
Eagles win and over.
Hannah?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same, actually. Both of these teams have running QBs, and we both know that they like to use it quite frequently. So I'm going to say the same as Paul. So my question for you two guys is, will Daniel Jones have over or under 0.5 interceptions? Go on, Mags, we'll start with you.
I think that he's going to get the over on that, I think. Still don't trust him for whatever reason. Paul?
I think he's going to go under, because he's only thrown something like 5 interceptions all year. And I'm going to go, my question is, Jalen Hurts over under 0.5 touchdowns.
Oh, over.
Yeah, over for me as well. So that's it, guys. Can't wait to get into the games heading forward next week, and we'll see you then for another rewind of some divisional matchups. See you next time.